In today's video, I'm going to tell you why I finally got rid of my big leaf mophead hydrangeas. Black spot was a huge problem for me, actually for the hydrangeas, and we also had to water them a ton. I finally replaced them with paniculata hydrangeas, and my garden sanity has been restored. I'm Laura from Garden Sanity. Let me tell you a little garden story. Once upon a time, we decided to redo our landscape and go completely grass-free, which is actually another story for another day. In one of the front foundation beds, we added more mophead big leaf hydrangeas, a large size, which actually didn't have any plant tags, and at the time, I apparently didn't think this was a big deal. I still have no idea what kind of hydrangea it was. Also planted were small petite dwarf versions called Pia Hydrangeas. These are almost always pink in flower color, regardless of how acidic the soil is. You can learn more about these adorable dwarf hydrangeas in my article called Pia Hydrangea, a pink dwarf hydrangea you'll love. The link to it is in the description area below. And by the way, I still do love them, despite what I'm about to share. These hydrangeas were planted by the landscapers way too close together. And I'll say this, at the time, years ago, I honestly doubted my amateur gardening knowledge. And I really thought by hiring landscapers that they were the experts on gardening. And no, I'm not knocking landscapers at all. There are amazingly talented landscapers out there. But then there are not so great landscapers. Anyway, back to the story. So these hydrangeas quickly outgrew their spots in this particular garden bed. And speaking of spots, they were developing black spot on them in part because they were planted way too close together. It was too wet, too humid. There wasn't any airflow among and around the plants. So my husband and I transplanted them into our backyard in 2018. We spaced them out properly and did everything the right way. And they still suffered from black spots on the leaves, which I treated with a copper fungicide. By the way, I used Espoma copper soap, which you spray on the leaves. But I had to do it a lot because the conditions just weren't going to change. It's hot and humid here. The smaller Pia hydrangeas suffered the most. Although I did have blooms, last year they looked like this, even before any blooms appeared. Meanwhile, the large hydrangeas wilted if you just looked at them the wrong way. Here they are last year in early July. They looked beautiful, and I was so happy at how great they looked. But I knew what was coming. Here's what they look like just 1 month later in early August. The flowers were bleached out by the sun. Yes, we used slow-release fertilizer, so they weren't lacking in any nutrients. They got like this because if we didn't baby them and water them a ton every single day, they would wilt. And again, this was on top of our regular watering via sprinklers. Now, remember, this also took up a large section of this garden bed. It wasn't worth it. So we ripped them out last year. Because this is Garden Sanity, I'm not going to lose my own sanity trying to coddle plants that just don't want to live in my garden. And if you're able to grow big leaf mophead hydrangeas in a humid and hot environment, I am totally in awe of you. Seriously, that is so awesome. I just can't do it. But I still think Pia hydrangeas are a beautiful dwarf hydrangea. I want to make that point. They're just not beautiful in my garden. So last fall, here's what the garden area looked like once we ripped them out, and I could not wait to fill in the space. We transplanted a burning bush, but we left the rest blank for me to dream about the entire winter season. I still wanted hydrangeas and decided to plant paniculata hydrangeas, which is another type of hydrangea species much more suited to the conditions I've got going on here. I already grow pinky winky hydrangeas, little lime hydrangeas, and a limelight hydrangea tree. Each of these are super easy to take care of. Seriously, if you're new to gardening, start out with a paniculata hydrangea and you'll feel like a pro when you see how gorgeous they are with little effort on your part. So I decided to plant 2 little quickfire hydrangeas right here. I just planted these about a month ago. These are smaller sized hydrangeas, similar to the little lime hydrangeas in terms of height and spread. They will eventually grow to be 3 to 5 feet tall and wide, and they're actually early bloomers compared to other panicle hydrangeas, such as our limelight hydrangea tree right here in this garden. The color is just starting, a pretty white, which will change to red as they age. Most importantly, they are already loving it here, and I'm thrilled. So what's the moral of this garden story? If a plant's not working for you, throw it out. Seriously, time to part ways. Life is too short. There are plants and shrubs that will work for every garden condition you can imagine. You just got to do a little bit of research. You got to stop the madness. Plant happiness. Until next time, happy gardening.